Hi everyone, this is Melissa, Artist in Residence at Imagine, and today I'm going to be doing a project with all-purpose inks that you can purchase at Imagine, and I'm going to be using a number of different colors that you can see there. I show you the wisteria, which is the purple, but I end up not using it because the pink and the blue actually turn a very beautiful purple color all on its own. So today I'm going to be using a stamp set from JoyClair called Doodle Flower Background, and I'm going to be embossing that stamp. So I'm going to simply place a piece of watercolor paper cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 in my MISTI, and I'm going to put my background stamp right over the top of that watercolor paper and stamp that with my Versamark ink. Now this gorgeous stamp, background stamp from JoyClair does not fill the whole 4 1/2 by 5 1/2, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 background, but that's okay. I'm also going to tell you that I have a very old sweatshirt on in this video because I'm using these inks and they're liquid. The process can be a bit messy, so I don't like to get my clothes dirty. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're going to be doing this kind of drip technique with inks. So I stamp on the watercolor paper, and then I'm going to emboss with some Imagine embossing powder in white. I will tell you that I made a bit of a mistake here because I'm stamping on watercolor paper. I really should have stamped twice with my MISTI, and that's kind of the advantage to using the MISTI, is that you can repeat the stamping process, and I did not do that, and you'll see a few missed places in my embossing. However, this background stamp is so gorgeous. I love it. And with this technique, I think that the ink and the background stamp really make for a beautiful combination. So I'm simply going to heat emboss. You could see that I've tapped off the excess embossing powder, and then I'm going to go ahead and use my heat tool to emboss the whole background. So now that I've finished heat embossing, I'm going to zoom in here so you can see how gorgeous this embossing is with this stamp. I love the fine detail. It's amazing. And I'm going to take an eyedropper and fill it up with water and squirt it all over this watercolor paper. One comes in that kit that I showed you at the beginning, but you can find these at your local art store if you can't find any. And I believe that Imagine actually sells some of these eyedroppers on their site. But anyhow, I'm going to draw up some ink and simply drip it over the card, and any that spills off I will be adding to the background as well. Now I did add water. You could add water in a fine mist on the watercolor paper as well and get kind of more of a diffused look if you don't want bright bold colors, but I was thinking that this kind of reminded me, you know, this background image reminded me a little bit of some of those colorful images that you see in multicultural museums and things, where you can get these gorgeous colors. So you can see the ink pulling to the side and kind of mixing and making this purple, and I love it. So I'm actually going to be drawing it up right off my mat. That's the great thing about the Imagine mat. Nothing soaks into it. You're not going to lose your ink. And use that purple to add some more gorgeous color to my background. But the way I'm dripping it on, you can see that all the colors don't necessarily mix all together, and so you get this very defined color in different areas, and you can see that color mix into each other beautifully on the card, but also leaving these kind of defined areas of bright pink and blue and now this purple that I'm adding. So I'll do this repeatedly, and then I spray a little bit with water so that I can get some movement in the color on the background. And there's a lot of excess on my craft mat, so I like to just take my extra watercolor paper and kind of soak that up. And look at how gorgeous that looks on its own. So this ink is beautiful, and it really has this bright bold color. So I'm just going to take my heat tool now and dry this up a little bit. And then I'm going to go back in because I really liked the blue color, and the background paper that I'm going to use behind this is a beautiful blue. So I wanted to add a little bit more of that ink. So you can see I can drip it on and then add some water so that I get that color to get some movement, and then I'm going to go ahead and use my heat tool. Now I'll tell you, I've done this technique multiple times with this ink, and it's gorgeous if you just use one color as well, especially if you drip it on, because you can get a beautiful marble effect. So I adhere that piece of blue cardstock to my card base, which is an A2, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I cut the edges off of the embossed background so that I could have the blue stick out the sides a little bit, and I simply adhere that to my card base with Tear It tape because Tear It tape works really well with watercolor paper. To finish my card, I added a sentiment from JoyClair Stamps called Best Buds in Charming Pink and Paradise Versifying Clair ink. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial and you'll join us again at Imagine.